Now to a controversy involving the FBI and the Arab community in southeast Michigan. An FBI surveillance plane has flown at least 7 times recently over Metro Detroit and 2 times last weekend over Dearborn. Now, the FBI says they're not looking at terrorist threats or targeting communities, but didn't give any specifics about the flight. Community leaders are not happy. The big question is, what is the FBI looking for? And obviously, they can't tell us exactly, but they did have a meeting on Wednesday night with members of the Arab community, and also Representative Debbie Dingell was there as well. The fact that they met with community leaders so quickly, Nolan, what does that signal to you?
Well, I mean, they're trying to diffuse the sort of pushback on this, but I mean, this is the problem with the unaccountable mass surveillance, the era we're in, where we sweep up all sorts of data, where we mine all sorts of data, and the trade-off is supposed to be that we're being kept safe from terror. But I don't think there's been enough accounting to show if that's really the case or not. They told the community that this was a specific terrorist threat. If so, wouldn't we all be glad if they diffused it? But if it's just out there mining data, Big Brother type spying on the citizens of the country, you know, I'm uncomfortable with that.
Can you blame the reaction of the community, Nancy?
You know, I think it's understandable. A lot of people, to be fair, not people in this area, but people around the country have fixated on Dearborn because of its large Arab American population, as though it must be a troubled place. It must be the epicenter of some sort of horrible plot. You see articles of people who, in other places who are convinced that Dearborn's under Sharia law, that there's, the day of 9/11, there were those false reports that there were Arab Americans in Dearborn dancing in the streets, that kind of thing. People can't seem to get over this idea that it's this place where plots brew and bad people live. So yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're a member of that community, that's not a great situation to live under, and this kind of thing has the potential to reinforce that perception or make you feel more singled out or targeted in a way that's not consistent with what the reality of the city of Dearborn is.
At the same time, the FBI and all Homeland Security dealing with a very difficult threat now and a very new type of challenge in this ongoing war on terror, and that's the radicalization of individuals. So it's not necessarily terror threats coming from an organized plot within a group of people in a specific geographic area, but individuals being radicalized on the internet. And I think they're grappling on how to get a hold of that. You saw the incident in Chattanooga. I mean, how do you get in front of those kind of things? And I don't think they know the answer to that yet.
Well, and what concerns me is you're talking about, you were mentioning the data mining and sweeping up huge amounts of information. When you read about the conditions and the intelligence situation that led up to 9/11, the problem wasn't that they didn't have information. They had tons of information. They had all the information they needed to connect the dots on what was happening, is that they weren't using it properly. The agencies weren't talking to each other.
Well, there were firewalls in place to prevent them.
Correct, and we've done some work on correcting some of those issues, but what I am more interested in, rather than having them accumulate more data, is whether or not they're using the data that they have in the most effective way. Because you can have all the data in the world, and if you're not analyzing it and putting it together in proper ways, it's not going to do any good for you.
You know, I think it's interesting. The FBI said, look, there is no credible or specific threat that they were able to share about this area right now. And they said that they are not targeting a specific group. Do you think, Nolan, the fact that the Arab community in the papers today said, you know what, we're pretty satisfied with what the FBI had to tell us at this meeting last night, a new era of understanding between the feds and the community?
Well, I think they're trying to do a better job of communicating. That's always helpful. They seem to have pretty good relationships now. But, you know, again, I don't know what the tactic they employ will be to guard against this sort of internet radicalization. That's not located in any specific geographic area.
All right, last word on this, Nancy.
This has been an ongoing outreach by the federal government since 9/11 to connect with the community. After 9/11, the U.S. Attorney had meetings in Dearborn to talk about, you know, people could talk about hate crimes or issues they had. There was a community effort with, I think, the Arab American Anti-Discrimination Committee to try to make ties in the community so people felt comfortable with the FBI. I mean, this has been an ongoing effort for 14 years now, and it's good that they're able to have these connections and talk about concerns, but obviously there's some disconnect here between what the FBI is saying and what happened.